All right. Hello, tea family. How are you this evening? I hope you've had a wonderful weekend. We're going to definitely be doing something exciting today. We are actually going to talk about our morning Irish tea. It is amazing, a really bold, robust flavor first thing in the morning. And we're going to talk today about the difference between a morning Irish, which is an Irish breakfast tea, and how that's different from other breakfast blends. We'll get some stuff. I've got even a poll question to ask everybody today. So let's start off with our typical, what's in your cup? So what are you drinking right now while we're live? Say hello so I know you're here. My handy dandy assistant will try and help me with that. But then the other thing is, please, if this is your first time joining us, welcome. Feel free to put your comments or in the chat or in the comment section, depending on which platform you're watching. So, all right. So I see Kim and Diane here. Kim has Emerald Garden this evening. I love Emerald Garden. That's awesome. Diane's drinking Starlight Pear. That's what I thought I said. I apologize if I said it wrong. Stephanie's drinking Emerald Garden, which goes perfectly with our teapot and teacup today. And Diane's drinking Starlight Pear. And Kim has Irish Sunrise, but she's doing a decaf tonight. Awesome. Well, I'm going to be drinking morning Irish. I thought about doing Irish breakfast, but then I decided it's so similar to Serene Sunrise. I would go, instead of Irish Sunrise, I'm going to go with morning Irish. So, all right, before we get started, I have a question for everybody. So in the chat, I want you to answer this question, or in the comments, depending on the platform. Breakfast teas are all the same or slightly different? So are they pretty much all the same, or are they slightly different? Go ahead and enter in the comments or chat. One of the things I'm going to have you do first off. Okay. Don't be shy. It's okay to type. Are they all the same, or are they a little bit different? All right. Oh. All right. So Diane says slightly different. Okay. There's one. And then let's see. While she's doing that, I'm going to show you. I've got morning Irish right here. And let's show you what it looks like. So hopefully you all can see a lot of black teas, very big. It is a very robust flavor. Okay, now I do have this really amazing set. And one of the reasons why I won't like to use this set is this was gifted to me by a very dear friend. And she went on a trip, what was her final trip to Ireland, and bought this set back for me. So it is very special. But it has the shamrock. So what else could I possibly do for this kind of thing? So, yep, especially in March. She was very Irish, as is some of my heritage. So, all right. I've got Diane saying slightly different. I've got Kim saying slightly different. Give everybody else a chance. You're also going to see me using something that you don't see very often, but in a lot of the older tea sets, you'll see something like this. And this just sits down. And then you can use this typically on a lower teacup. So if it's too high, it's too much. But I'm actually going to do it this way. Is the water all boiled and ready?
Water is
awesome. So 1 perfect teaspoon fits in there. And as you can see, there's still tons of space in there. That won't be the case. All right. I'll do this with my left hand. See how it goes. Remember, we want it so that the water comes up, and then I will need 3 minutes on the clock, please. This is a black tea. Black tea, you can do anywhere from 200 degrees to boiling. I really typically like the the boiling. I feel like it brings out more of the flavor of the tea without burning it. And you can brew it 3 times. So the first brew is 3 minutes and then add 1 minute for each additional brew. That's how we do it. All right, let's settle the debate. Sorry, I picked my wrong piece of equipment there. Okay. Are breakfast teas all the same? I will tell you, a lot of people think they are, but they're not. So English breakfast tea is going to be the mildest of the breakfast teas, more balanced, even sometimes has slightly floral notes. But then you could move on and like a Scottish breakfast tea. This is going to be the strongest of all of them. And we talked about this before. A lot of this has to do with the water and how hard the water is and different things like that. But Scottish breakfast is going to be the strongest, smokier, a hint, a more serious punch. We will be doing, I'm giving you a hint right now. Everybody ready? The secret is during our spring live at the beginning of April, we are actually going to have our own Scottish breakfast blend available that day at that sale only. So watch out for that. There's your hint. And then you come to like a morning Irish or an Irish breakfast tea to compare it back to the milder English breakfast, still really bold and robust, to the smokier and even the most bold for the Scottish tea. But from morning Irish, really we're looking full-bodied, smooth, rich. It's got like a malty depth to it. It is perfect for standing up to milk, but it is still amazing black. I really, really like this one with milk, but then this is very similar to what I grew up drinking. So, okay, I got another challenge for you. If you like bold black teas, put the teacup or coffee cup emoji in the chat or comments. Just because we want to talk about it. So now we've been brewing our perfect cup. We brought the water to boil. Diane's like, woo, woo, I want it all. I love that. Here you go. That's such a great comment. Thank you. So we did 1 teaspoon, and I do that 6 to 8 ounces of the water. Now, 200 to 212, like I said, but one of the big things is you definitely want to make sure that you've got a timer going, because timing matters. Too long and with this much strength to it, it could get very, very bitter. There we go. Diane's got 4 teacups. She likes all of the black tea blends. That's awesome. So 3 minutes for the first brew. We're going to put that aside and see how that just kind of sits in there. I also want you to see how full that is. It is completely full now, and that is only 1 little teaspoon. Gives you an idea of how much everything really, the leaves really come out and grow. All right, now is the perfect time if you're going to add any sugars or honeys or anything like that. One of the things I want to add is milk. So that is one of the things. But if you get a good idea, look how dark that coloring is. And then just a little spot of milk from our little green and beige picture. And then I wanted to say the other thing is I have a little teaspoon. Now, this is an actual spoon for tea as opposed to a teaspoon. So this is the perfect cup teaspoon. This is not a measuring cup teaspoon either, but it's a really fun little, and this one happens to be gold, but it has some green on the top. So I figured it was the perfect day. We're talking about morning Irish, and we are in March. Everybody excited about being March 2nd? I know. Time's going so quick this year. But there are little teaspoons like this, and they really are made for tea and tea parties and things like that. This is my only gold one that was given to me, but I do have some little silver ones. I love to bring them out. I don't love polishing them, but I do love pulling them out and using them at tea parties that we host. Now, this is typical what it looks like with the milk. You could have added a touch of honey, Milk or no milk? Okay, so let me know if you're having a dark Irish breakfast tea. Are you enjoying it with milk or without? So go ahead and put it in the chat or comments. I'm going to try and take a sip really quickly. So good. So the milk is going to cut back on the tannic acids, so it's not going to disrupt my stomach as much. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of people start to put milk in teas. It also gives a creaminess when you have all the maltiness and the darker flavors. I just love it. Kim says she hasn't ever tried it with milk, but she might on this next cup. I would say if you were going to try a tea with milk in it, definitely a black tea is the way to go, especially the ones that are more robust. There are days like today, I've just got tea and I have the milk in there. You don't see honey or sugar or anything like that. But I've done it many, many times that way too. But the milk really adds a creaminess that balances the kind of robust, heavier flavors. It's so nice. But yes, for those that have issues with the acidic nature of tea, remember 3 minutes that first brew, don't overbrew it. But then the other thing is if you add milk, that cuts it. So milk, depending on your mood. I get it. I agree. There are times that I just want the black tea, but many times when I'm going, especially with what in the coffee world would be called a darker roast, in our world, more fully oxidized, and then the different balances of black teas, I'm going to usually, like 98% of the time, going to go with milk. So here's a fun fact for you all. Irish breakfast tea wasn't about the caffeine. I know that sounds funny because a lot of times people want black tea because they're like, oh, I need the caffeine. I know I've said that many, many a time for myself. But back in the 1800s, tea was expensive and the Irish people wanted something stronger and more satisfying. So they turned to the Assam tea from India, a tea that was rich in malty flavor and a dark reddish color. And they wanted something really, really, they wanted it satisfying, but they wanted it something that they could enjoy through the whole day. So they went with more Assam tea. And that is one of the differences, is the amount of Assam there is versus in other breakfast teas. Now, that same tradition of starting with that, and then they would drink it all day long. So it had to be really bold to go all day long. And so that kind of drinking tea all day became part of the culture of the morning Irish or Irish breakfast tea. So did you know that? Is that something new to you? Let me know. Put it in the comments. I think it's really interesting sometimes to see how some of our traditions, especially around tea, come together. Now, I do want to talk about tea and food pairing. So what are we going to put with this morning Irish? Well, I just so happen to have a couple of cool little things right here. All right. First, what is your go-to breakfast? We'll see how it goes with morning Irish. So my go-to breakfast most of the time is I'm having eggs and I might have a piece of toast with it. But it's definitely like eggs and an English muffin. It might be like an English muffin and or eggs and corned beef hash on a really special day. So Kim did not know that history of the morning Irish tea. I love that, sharing that kind of stuff with everybody. So what I would say is lap song. Lap song. All right. Well, so pairings to highlight with an Irish breakfast tea or a morning Irish tea: butter, toast, and jam. So you're going to have a very typical breakfast for some, where you're just having kind of toast and jam, that maltiness of the tea is going to enhance the sweetness, and it's really going to contrast and complement each other well. Stephanie has a homemade granola she has for cereal. So Stephanie, granola is a great option, especially if you are eating it for breakfast. And then I think you saw I put up Kim also does oats for breakfast. Those are really great because you'll get kind of the sweetness of the oats to enhance again and have that complementary contrasting flavors. Another one I want to kind of talk about is a more typical European, and that would be in Ireland, an Irish soda bread with honey. These are going to bring out some more of the caramel notes of the black tea. Now, we're going to come back, and I'm going to come back to the oatmeal. You could do a snack with oatmeal cookies, but having an oatmeal or an oat-based granola in the morning, perfect complement. But you know what makes that oats and tea even better? This right here. This is a little dark chocolate. It's actually an extra dark chocolate. We have two here. And we made these today just for this live. I have a recipe that we use that we can do like 1 or 2 or 3 of these at a time. And that's great because we don't eat a ton of sugar here. But like a super dark chocolate is really going to pair well, especially if you have like dark chocolate with oatmeal cookies, or dark chocolate with your oats and granola. Just a little bit of a really high, and you can tell that it is homemade chocolate because there are no preservatives to stop it from melting on my fingers. No, I'm just going to lick it. He asked me if I wanted a tissue. I'm just going to lick it off my fingers. Sorry, everybody. That's what I'm going to do. Diane is oatmeal or eggs. So this would work on your oatmeal mornings. I don't recommend chocolate on your eggs. Just saying. But any kind of like sweet treats or bread and cookies, but like the dark chocolate especially, which is what I really wanted to highlight and why we made them, is just a really great complement to this. And that's the great thing is a lot of what I've said here are things that you could eat for breakfast or you could kind of eat throughout the day. Now, I know that on the thumbnail picture that I used for this video, one of the things you saw was this tea with a traditional Irish breakfast of beans and a lot of meats and different things like that, and some Irish soda bread. It can stand up to those heartier meals. So out of all of those things, which would be your favorite thing to be to place to eat with your tea? And it can be for breakfast or it could be throughout the day. What would be your favorite food to complement your robust morning Irish tea? And also remember, if you have any questions, go ahead, put them in there. We're going to talk about any of your questions along the way.
Steak and eggs.
Steak and eggs? You want steak and eggs with your tea?
For breakfast.
Steak and eggs for breakfast works for me. I don't know if it works for my checkbook, but it works for me. Well, the tea part will work for me, but my checkbook, but I don't know if it'll work with the steak and eggs. Eggs are expensive enough without adding steak to that. Okay, so I thought while we're talking about this, one of the things that we run into sometimes, and when I gave you that hint earlier for that Scottish breakfast tea that we are developing, we took a really long time to start creating it. And one of the problems I have is because we want to make sure that when we're sourcing our ingredients, that we are picking the right quality ingredients. You know, we really are very picky about that. Okay, so Dominique has chai with toast, peanut butter, honey, and banana slices. That sounds really good too. That sounds really, really good first thing in the morning. Lots of protein in there, some sweetness to start the day. That's awesome. So what do we look for in our ingredients? Well, first for us, organic and non-GMO. We really want to concentrate on, ideally, if we can't grow it ourselves, which we can grow a few things, and peppermint is wild here, thankfully. That makes that very easy. But we want to try and focus on small farms and that are family farms and co-ops and places where they are still very connected. They might be smaller. And this way, when they come in either individually or in the co-ops, we know that they know nothing's been added, nothing's happened to the crops or the tea that they haven't wanted to happen. So I can really make sure that they're really, truly, none of the pesticides or anything like that. Because when we drink it, we don't want to drink the pesticides and everything else. So it's really important to us. We like to try and stay as local as possible, but some of our teas are only available in other places. You know, our rooibos comes from South Africa, which is known for it. And so sometimes we'll opt for that if we can't grow something ourselves. So when we want to go with a very high quality Assam, we will probably try, I think we tried several. I mean, there were several different Assams that kind of met all our criteria, but then we want flavor and I want really big leaves, and we're still trying to make it economical. So that's a lot of how we source our ingredients, because we're really looking, like for Assam, I want that perfect balance of strength and smoothness. I want to see that it's fully oxidized. I want to see the unbroken leaves as much as possible, things like that. Now, the other thing that we do in sourcing our ingredients is we also put the care and timing into small batch blending. Like you saw that little pint jar last week that we were doing of our Sunlit Orchard, which, as a reminder, is available for everyone as of today, not just our VIPs, but we do it in small batches. And you saw I rolled it. We didn't shake it. We weren't forceful with it. Just a few rolls, and it still was able to mix everything perfectly, as you saw. And then that prevents everything from breaking the tea leaves down, things becoming more bitter, but it still does a really good mix. And we do it by hand. We don't do it through our machines. So that helps us keep a very high quality focus on all our ingredients. So Diane likes a breakfast tea, a whole hearty grain bread with seeds that have been toasted. See, breakfast tea with toast. I think that's the perfect thing, you know, and that's one of those things for me too. Tea and toast is a comfort food. If I don't feel well, that's probably one of the things that I'm going to want. In fact, when I was really sick a few months ago, and I could basically, I went through a stage where there was almost no food that my stomach wanted me to eat. I could still live on the tea and toast, and I was pretty much living on tea and toast for a little while. But it's just such a comfort food to me. I know other people have different comfort foods, but that's mine. Tea and toast with some butter on it. Like that is my comfort food. It's not always the healthiest thing to eat 24/7, but you know, it is what it is. So, all right. Other questions and comments? I love the fact that everybody's enjoying the tea. I'm surprised nobody said the dark chocolate would be their choice, but that's okay. That just leaves more chocolate for the handy dandy assistant and I, because when it comes to chocolate, we prefer the no sugar added dark, super dark chocolates to make all sorts of stuff. So, okay. Let's see. No questions. If you have any other questions, please put them in the comment or chat. And I have another question for you. So one of the things that I do is I actually have many of these Sunday lives kind of planned out in my calendar, but I don't want it to be just about like what I want to talk about. I do typically go in depth with one of our teas one Sunday a month. And I typically have a big question and answer. We do a mocktail every once in a while, and we do some other different things. But what is something you would like us to cover or talk about in one of our Sunday lives? If I'm going to give you a second, give you a reminder, but put it in the chat, because what are you interested in? Do you want me to stop and really focus more on like water or brewing, or do you want to talk about different flavors or tea? You know, I know we've done a couple where we've created teas, there's tea blends ourselves, or that sort of thing. I do know that there is one day in March that we're going to actually be talking about teapots, and why we would choose one kind of teapot over another. That should be pretty fun. Just those kind of things. So those are some of the ideas that I have coming up, but I would really love to hear from you and what you would like. And while you are typing some of that into the comments and chats, I am going to remind you that for the month of March, remember on our website, you get 10% off Morning Irish and Irish Sunrise, which is our morning Irish blend, but with cinnamon added in. And if you are allergic to cinnamon, as I know we have a few people that are allergic to cinnamon, we can actually put in a different spice that tastes really, really well. And we will add nutmeg in it. It's a similar spice and it gives it a little different profile, but has that same complexity. It tastes delicious. So, all right, let's see. Kim has what else to do with tea beyond the cup, like cookies mentioned last week? Absolutely. You know, we could definitely do a live on a Sunday, Kim. That's a great idea, of all the other things, because I know I've mentioned them before in some of my reels and things, but not everybody sees those. So, and then once it's gone, you might miss it. But I can definitely do one of those because there's so much to do with tea outside. You know, I have 2 more brews for this, but then what am I going to do, and what can I still do with these tea leaves, as well as what could I do if I just didn't want to brew it? I was going to use it for something else. That's a great idea. We can definitely do that. I can add that to the calendar and move some stuff around. That's great. Anybody else, please enter it. There. We're not talking about it. Okay. I hope nobody heard that because Handy Dandy Assistant was at it again. I don't know what I'm going to do with him sometimes, but wonderful. Okay, maybe a recipe exchange of favorite recipes. You know, that would also be really, really fun. And I love things that are interactive. I love when you all comment or interact, because this isn't just about me talking about tea. I really want to have a community of tea people that enjoy it. And we can definitely talk about a exchange of recipes. That would be really, really fun. Or, you know, that gets me thinking too, we could also, what would you pair with? Do a session on what would you pair with, and I kind of tell you the week before what the tea blend is, and then you guys could all come up with different ideas of what you would blend with that particular tea. All right. Okay. So Dominique, I know, is going to be really a popular choice. She wants Earl Grey cheesecake. So that would be really fun to do. I know that we all had some onyx chai cheesecake that Stephanie made at one point. That was absolutely amazing. It looked like it was ready for a food magazine or a cookbook. It looked so pretty, but it was delicious. So you really got the flavor of the tea, but it didn't overwhelm the cheesecake. Absolutely. So, and Diane likes your idea, Dominique, and I am not surprised by that because Diane just really loves cheesecake. So, you know, you guys are bosom buddies with that one. Awesome. Okay. Well, I did want to remind you, 10% off. Just use the coupon code Irish on our website. Next week, I don't have my calendar in front of me, so I can't tell you what we're doing next week. What are we doing next week? I want to say my calendar's not anywhere near me either. We had people over to play a game yesterday, and that game takes over our whole house. And I still don't know where I put the paperwork that I keep that. But I want to say that next week is actually it's the second Sunday. So I want to say that next week was when we are going to be talking about the teapots that I was just talking about earlier. So we'll be talking about different kinds of teapots, what tea is best in what teapot, and different things like that. So that's what we'll be talking about next week. Thank you all so much for joining me. Let me know how you're liking this new technology. I know we added the software at one point to make the comments come up and everything like that, but then I started doing something else a little bit different last week. So let me know if you even noticed that there's a difference, and if you did, do you like it better or worse? We're kind of playing with some stuff here to make it. We've heard some like, hey, that was dark, or like that was a little fuzzy, and so we're trying to fix some of these things in the background, and just love your input. Other than that, I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I will see you next Sunday.